This is another video to tackle the subject of homosexuality and how it is a choice that people choose and not something that people are born with. It's not being born. You're not born that way. I definitely tackled a lot of these things in the last video, but I was a little too airy about it, and I believe that's the reason why most people didn't sit through the whole video, and there tend to be a lot of repeated questions in the comments. This time I just want to tackle it straightforward and just pummel the whole argument. Okay, so in the last video I pointed out that the word gay concerning people and the many things we preconceive with the word is false. It's an unscientific term. It's a pop culture term that implies many things that are not within the definition, things that are not scientific and things that cannot be proven and are more likely to be disproven than proven. Now, most people, I've seen in the comments a lot of people mentioning all sorts of crazy things. Some people state how that they're born gay, and they believe that if they're born gay, then that's just what they are. And I make the argument that if someone says they're born a fan of crime, I just love crime, then that's how I should be accepted. And it is not how they should be accepted. And at the end of the day, if they choose crime despite how they feel, then we know there's a problem. But we also know that a child is not born with such sophisticated desires or choices at their disposal. A child rather is born naked and defenseless, in need of a mother and father. And having such an humble origin amongst all mankind, I think that we all should be a little more humble with these subjects and not be so quick to run off the deep end. Okay, so the scientific terms are hetero, homo, and bi. And the reason why these are scientific terms is because these are things that can be seen in actions. Hence, when you commit these actions, it makes you that. So let's define them. Hetero means that you are a guy or woman who has a sexual identity with that would cause you to relate with the opposite sex in a sexual manner exclusively. Okay, next there's the homo. The homosexual is a person who is of a gender, is of one of the two genders. There's only two, and they relate with the person of their own same sexuality, and because they engage in that exclusively, they get the term homosexual. Then there's the person who this is the gray one. This is the person that really puts everything into place. It's the person considered a bisexual. This is a person who will commit this act, the actual sexuality, with both men and women, or a man and a woman. So let's look into this a little deeper, and I'm definitely basing this video based on a lot of the comments. Someone says, well, if there's a difference between someone who's full-blown gay and there's a difference between someone who's experimenting, well, the whole point is, let's get rid of the foolish terms. Why can't we just exclusively use the scientific terms? There is no application of a quote unquote gay unquote person who isn't within these categories. The whole point is you are always either a man or a woman. There is no extra. Sure, you can be a person who does surgical things to modify what you are, in which case you can add that on top of the fact that what you are, but you still are what you are. Michael Jackson might have said it doesn't matter if you're black or white, but at the end of the day, Michael Jackson died a black man despite the color of his skin, if we are using the term black to refer to his Afrocentric ethnicity. So if we look into this, we can say that someone who is experimenting with homosexuality is not gay, as a person said. Well, sure, they're not. They're not homosexual. They are experimenting. Since they're experimenting, that makes them a bisexual. But the thing is, they are that. And that was a choice. That was a decision that they made. Now, someone could say, well, it's based on how you feel. If I feel this way about something, then I was just born this way because it's how I feel. But the point is, why are we so quick to run either left or run right? Why can't we just go to the narrow road? Let's get away from the wide road of confusion. Let's go to the narrow road and look at this from an educated point of view. Because when we do, we'll see that you have to acknowledge that there are people who experiment with this stuff. And since they experiment with this stuff, you can't sit here and base everything based on feelings, because we know feelings change. You can feel one way about a person and don't feel that way about them tomorrow. In the same way, you can feel one way about sexuality and then you can end up experimenting and playing with stuff and then feel a completely different way of the result of what you've been experimenting with. Therefore, we have plenty who experiment with, sexualities. Hence, we use that as an example. A guy, we say, if there's a guy who's experimenting, it's not the same thing as a guy who he only feels this way. He never felt that way about a woman. Well, if he never felt that way about a woman, there's nothing we can do about that. There's no way we can know that, and there's nothing we can do about that. We don't know if deep down inside he really did feel a way about a woman, but he just didn't have the guts to approach women. We don't know that. We don't know if he didn't, we don't know nothing about his feelings. The only thing we can do is assume that he knows everything about his feelings, and I don't assume that anybody knows everything about their feelings, because people tend to do things that they don't want. Oh, I want this, and then they don't really want it. Oh, I need that, but they don't really need it. Oh, I love that person, but they don't really love them. At the end of the day, people who are led by their emotions are disastrous. You can feel good doing something that's retarded. You can feel good doing crack knowing that it's killing you. And you can sign up for crack knowing that it's going to hurt you. You can hear everything about what heroin does to the body, and you can still choose to take heroin. In the same way, I'm not saying that people who live homosexual lives and bisexual lives willingly want to be ridiculed. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they sign up to get beat down and to get hassled. On the contrary, we know that they wish that everybody accepted what they do, don't we? Most of them, who joins it to be bashed? Most people don't join things to be bashed. They don't pick a team so that the team can lose. But that doesn't mean they didn't pick the team. It didn't mean they didn't choose a team. You can't sit there and say, well, just because our team's losing, I didn't choose it. I was born to be a fan of this team, and that's why I'm a fan of this team. No, you're a fan of the team because you chose to. It's probably because it's the team of your hometown, or maybe there's a reason why you chose that team. In the same way, there's a reason why you choose the sexual identity that you choose. People try to retaliate by saying, well, heterosexuals choose their sexuality. We indeed do choose our sexuality, and we choose it naturally, because naturally we see that in all of creation, we see that naturally these selection comes. We make selections, whether we make selections with music, colors, anything. We have intellectual personalities in which we make selections, and I use the word it's natural in the sense of hetero, because it's natural because we naturally have an observed desire to procreate, and in so having that desire, we do procreate by selecting a mate of the opposite sex. You can look at that scientifically or biblically, but at the end of the day, a homo cannot recreate. They cannot recreate. The only way they can recreate is by finding the offspring of hetero sex. heterosexual activity, and after that heterosexual activity, a baby is born. This is the only way a baby comes, the only way life comes, and they can only seek to infect that person or persuade that person. I use the word infect because that's all it is in the eyes of those who come to really understand it. It's a corruption. It's a corruption if that's not the way that God made it, if we are acknowledging God. Most people don't want to acknowledge God, hence they don't see it, just like a lot of people don't want to acknowledge the fact that homosexuality is a choice. It's not based on how you feel, it's based on what you decide. Hence, if a guy goes out and says, hey, I'll sleep with another guy for $50, if he chooses that, then guess what? The moment he sleeps with another guy sexually with another guy for $50, he is either, if he is exclusively sleeping with guys, then he is a homosexual. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if he is still sleeping with women, then he is a bisexual. No ifs, ands about it. That's it. Science, whatever you want to use, intellectual mind, it puts it in its place. We have words for these things. We have no reason for the word straight or gay. We use the word straight or gay to make this false image that this person is just gay. Someone who's gay can turn straight. No, they can't. Well, then a straight person can turn gay. No, straight people can't turn gay. Get out of here. And what are you saying? Well, if they turn gay, they always were gay. And if they turn straight, then they always were straight. No, that's not how this works. There's no divine order in this. At the end of the day, these activities have labels which you can scientifically observe. Hence, the person who engages in homosexuality exclusively is a homosexual. And if he engages in both sex, then he is a bisexual. And if he engages strictly in the opposite sex, then he is a heterosexual. No need for the word straight or gay. And the point is, these are decisions. These are things that you choose. Hence, you are accountable for them. Hence, God says that he will judge us for these things. Make no mistake about it. It says in the Bible that homosexuals will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. And the reason why it says that is because at the end of the day, you can't even be a bisexual unless you engage in a homosexual act. Because the moment even if you're still sleeping with women, if you're a guy, if you sleep with another guy, you just engage in a homosexual act. But we can't call you a homosexual because you're not strictly one if you're still sleeping with women, which makes you a bisexual. But at the end of the day, there is no bisexuality without there being homosexuality. And so at the end of the day, what are we going to do? Are we going to say that bisexuals are born that way? People are born that way? And if they are born that way, what are we going to say? That some people are born sluts? They're born just naturally needing to sleep around and be whorish? Let's get out of here. You know, these are personality traits, you know. Men love men. Women love women. We know that. Because the world loves people. People love people. Men have male friends. How do you have a friend that you don't love? But at the end of the day, we don't pervert that relationship. We don't go further in that relationship. In the same way, what is a slut? A slut is someone who sleeps around, right? Well, that's the thing. They've taken it to a perversion. They've taken sexual activity to a perversion to the point to where they're sleeping around. Hence, we label them a slut or a whore. In the same way, you have taken your love for your fellow man in a perverted way. If you're a guy, and you've taken your love for your fellow woman, if you're a woman, in a perverted way, when you have this sexual relationship where you lay with them, and many and much of the time, people can't even lay with the person of the opposite sex without that person taking on feminine identity, with if it's a man, or among women taking on masculine identity. You know, there's usually a woman who has to try and live live in many ways like a man, because it's natural for the opposite sexes to attract.